Hello. Testing. Testing. I'm just back for this really isn't meant to be official or anything, but all right, well the video looks okay and although this is in a different format than I wanted. Let's play around with this a bit. Um, just playing around with some settings on this thing and it's a little bit delayed, but I was going to play this video, see how it sounds, see if anybody can hear it, all that good stuff. This is a new streaming software called evmux, um, which is supposed to be, fairly a little bit more robust of a program than we usually get. It's a little bit more advanced, I think, than well. Anyway, uh, but yeah, it has some very different controls than what I'm used to. But anyway, if anybody can actually hear this, I'd be kind of surprised. Um, Warren, jeez, man, right out the gate. Is there a way that I can like see the chat? That's a good test here. Let's see. Stop screen sharing, share video. Oh, can you not highlight embedded? There's internal chat, banners. Oh, wow. Okay. I don't know if it I don't know if it lets you do that. That seems kind of shitty. I don't think it actually lets you highlight someone else's comments. I can't imagine that's like a pay thing. I would think that. Oh, here we go. Social chat. There it is. Let's see. Okay. Slowly learning. Slowly. Um, Warren. Why should I try Judaism when Jews do not recognize the divinity of Jesus Christ? I don't know. Because they got Hashem, man. They got Yahweh. In the same way that you wouldn't settle for Mormonism having sampled Christianity, you know, thinking, why would Jews settle for Christianity? Nobody wants the fan fiction derivative, the diet version of their religion. Or did you mean messianic Jew like Mr. Batman? I wouldn't wish anybody to be like Mr. Batman. No one. So, not even Mr. Batman. Make me a mod, JS. I probably should, actually, because, Daisy, there's a very good chance that if I don't, you will be kicked if, let's see, add moderator. All right, Daisy, you have been weaponized. All right, so I guess I'm going to give this a shot. I don't know how I sound. If anybody's in the chat, let me know. This is a little bit weird because the little EV Mux thing keeps playing over the top there. I kind of like the layout for this. Some of the stuff that I've got saved and some of the other settings through YouTube are still embedded in there. So, but like some of the other stuff that I would normally play, I usually play through StreamYard. I don't play it through any kind of YouTube control, so I don't have the intro video, and I didn't have some of the same artwork. So I'm just using that particular thing. Don't that avatar? That's AI. It was generated a few days ago. So don't judge me. It's supposed to be a scumbag detective who's also a chicken. I think he is either smoking a cigarette, lighting a cigarette, or he is breathing fire. I have no idea. I hereby relinquish my mod powers. If you'd like to give them up, AJ, I can. the Daisy's Daisy's first act will be to kick you as soon as you relinquish your powers. Okay, so let's see what this does. Let's see if I can reverse this because I'm supposed to be able to like pivot these. Okay, I think that will change it. So now it should switch these over, and I should be, yeah, that looks a little bit better. But I should go for something that kind of maximizes that one. Let's do that. Okay, there we go. All right, and let's get back in there and apologies. This is getting annoying. Okay, let's do that. That'll improve it. Maybe. Okay, so again, yeah, I don't know how this thing actually sounds. So I'm a little bit curious about it. Daisy, I did try to get my brother to join, but he's at work and all he's got is his phone. And we tried that, and this particular program is about as user friendly as other programs, other browser-based streaming platforms when you use a mobile device. I believe it crashed like almost immediately. more, more chill. Bond, come on, man. Like, I think this is the first time I've covered a Jill video on this particular video, and I'm only doing it for testing. I'm only doing it for testing, because Lord knows his stuff is not, and this is not monetized either, because his stuff is pure poison. All right, let's give this a shot. Man, this layout is weird. Okay, shit. Let's see if we can get this done.
Like why God is so evil, basically. Like how do you deal with that? How do you deal with the idea that God may just slaughter people and do all these horrible things?
Where are you seeing that in the text?
The Midianites,
What about the
uh,
Midianites?
well, weren't they slaughtered?
Or was this a war that was waged?
Yeah.
Okay, so in war, people die, don't they?
Disciples came unto him privately, saying, Tell us, when shall these things be? And what shall be the sign of thy coming, and of the end of the world? And Jesus answered and said unto them, Take heed that no man deceive you. For many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ.
Hang on just one second. I'm going to mute myself here for one moment and test something. I'm not exactly sure why, but it sounds like I'm getting an echo, and I don't know why I would be with this particular program, but I am getting it. So, and it shouldn't be because everything's getting piped out of this thing. So, it doesn't entirely make sense why this is doing that. You guys don't have to like this stream. Again, this is all.
And shall deceive many.
Why would I be getting an echo? I don't understand why this thing echoes when I play it.
And ye shall hear of wars and rumors
It's
of
not echoing on
wars.
you guys' side, though,
See
is it?
that ye be not troubled. For all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilences, and earthquakes in divers places. All these are the beginning of sorrows. Then shall they deliver you up to be afflicted, and shall kill you, and ye shall be hated of all nations.
Yeah, it's a little bit weird. So he got into this conversation. The only reason I was kind of interested in this was because Mark Reed had a conversation with Jill. It's not the first time he's had one, and my brother was thinking about doing like a little edited response video, something snarky, and he and I were talking about this particular take that Jill had, and so like he immediately starts straw manning it because Mark Reed's like, well, yeah, war is bad, right? And Mark Reed's willing to go out on a limb, a controversial limb, and say all war is bad. It's generally an unpleasant thing, right? And Jill is immediately getting into this sort of like, okay, well, look at these other horrible things that have happened, right? These right, and when it first starts out, it almost seems like, okay, maybe he's just like, for whatever reason, he's trying to show the other death counts in wars, but there's things like rebellions and famines and genocides in here that are it's just a random body count. So this is like the weakest thing that he can do. It's just, well, here are examples of other ways that people have been truly horrible to themselves, right? Kind of missing the point. that Mark Reed's talking about. Like, well, yeah, war is bad. People do bad things to each other. Like, yeah, but in the Old Testament, people did things like this to each other because God told them to. And when they did this, they were good. They were righteous when they did it. So Jill just completely misses the point on this, but he continues to play this while he has this voiceover thing, read scripture to people.
Nations for my name's sake. And then shall many be offended, and shall betray one another, and shall hate one another. And many false prophets shall rise, and shall deceive many. And because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold. But he that shall endure unto the end, the same shall be saved. And this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations. And then shall the end come. When ye therefore shall see the abomination of desolation, spoken of by Daniel the prophet, stand in the holy place, whoso readeth, let him understand. Then let them which be in Judea flee into the mountains. Let him which is on the housetop not come down to take anything out of his house. Neither let him
Like the Three Kingdoms, right? Like, so the Three Kingdoms, you just 4.1 million people died. Well, the Three Kingdoms isn't a war. There's wars fought during the Three Kingdom period. This doesn't make any sense.
which is in the field return back to take his clothes. And woe unto them that are with child, and to them that give suck in those days. But pray ye that your flight be
This guy, Aurangzeb, he was the Mughal emperor of India. Like 4.6 million people died during his reign. Like,
not in the winter, neither on the Sabbath day. For then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, no, nor ever shall be. And except those days should be shortened, there should no flesh be saved. But for the elect's sake those days shall be shortened. Then if any man shall say unto you, Lo, here is Christ, or there, believe it not. For there shall arise false Christs, and false prophets, and shall shew great signs and wonders, insomuch that, if it were possible, they shall deceive the very elect. Behold, I have told you before. Wherefore, if they shall say unto you, Behold, he is in the desert, go not forth. Behold, he is in the secret chambers, believe it not. For as the lightning cometh out of the east, and shineth
there's the Atlantic slave trade, which isn't really as bad as we think it is. And as far as Jill is concerned, is just employment, right? Or maybe no, Atlantic slave trade is the bad one, but the Jewish version of it, the ancient Israelite version in the Old Testament, that's no different than an NBA contract.
even unto the west, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. For wheresoever the carcass is, there will the eagles be gathered together. Immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of the heavens shall be shaken. And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven.
I want to know where he got this corny read through. This audio book. Rick, good to see you too. I'm sorry that you're joining me for my test stream where I'm just going to be making fun of Jill. And if he shows up, folks, don't kick him. I'm kind of interested to see. Well, I think he's probably working this time of night.
And then shall all the tribes of the earth
What are the Mao Zedong and Genghis Khan? Yeah, I remember the war named Mao Zedong and the other war named Genghis Khan.
mourn.
Was this a war that was waged?
Yeah.
Okay, so in war people die, don't they? So when
takes them a
during
while.
warfare, people die. It's been happening since the age of man.
Is God permitting this?
Guess God permits wars. Yes,
So
he permitted
why
World
would
War
you?
One.
Are you guys still hearing it? I'm just wondering, just checking on sound settings because I'm playing around with levers. Um, I I like how they're getting bigger. So does Jill, believe it or not. Jill likes it when things get bigger. Um, if you guys can't hear it, Michael says, yeah, okay, you can hear it fine. Okay, I figured out why it was echoing only for me.
He permitted World War Two.
Why would you worship an evil God then?
It's an evil God to permit a war.
Sure.
Did the United States permit wars?
Well, he's already got Mark on a little bit of a diversion, right? Because Jill's like, oh, well, God permits war, but the ones that in the Old Testament are specifically ordered. In fact, when they don't carry out the war in the way that God wanted them to, which is to say, they didn't dedicate everything was dedicated for destruction, and then they didn't carry that part out, meaning they kept some people alive for whatever as prisoners or slaves or what have you, or they kept some of the stuff. In the book of Joshua, this happens. They're supposed to dedicate, I think, is it the city of Jericho? I think total destruction, and that Achan, I think that's his name, or Achan, however it's pronounced. He keeps some stuff, um, and that pisses off Yahweh, and so Joshua has to kill that guy and his entire family in order to make up for that little. He's the only one. Like everybody else dedicates Jericho to destruction, but this guy just pilfers a few things, and that's enough. Like Yahweh's like, nope, that's a violation of the ban right there. Everything has to go.
Does the United
Yeah,
States go to war? Is that
is the
evil?
United?
Yes.
Yeah.
War itself is evil?
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes, war is evil.
Wow.
What? What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
So, what does a World War veteran have to do with war being evil? Like, is Jill making a basic composition fallacy here? Well, if you're saying that war is evil, then by extension, people who fight in war must also be evil. Or maybe this is a division fallacy. Doesn't matter. Either way, this doesn't follow. Just because war might be, this would be like saying, like, well, somebody breaks into your house, threatens to kill you, you kill them, you defended yourself. It's a good thing that you shot that person to death, right? I don't think most people would put it that way. Well, Jill probably would. The good thing is that you defended yourself. Now, would it be better if you could have defended your life and your property without killing the home invader? I mean, I think most people would say yes. Would Jill? I don't think so. I think Jill thinks it's good that somebody got killed.
So if someone
Absolutely.
comes into your home and tries to rape your mother and your
That's not
And yeah, good to see Bree. Hive Science is here, and Hive Science was there for this particular conversation. So I'm sorry if this is bringing up, this is bringing up past drama, Bree. But I hope you can. I hope you can push through. We're doing this for the lulls. Spooky. Two streams in one day. It must be Christmas. No, this is just me deciding that I put off too long trying to play around with this evmux thing or evmax, whatever. So, Kyle, war, I was told, was good for absolutely nothing. Yeah, yeah. I mean, and that song's wiser than most of the books of the Bible.
a
daughter
war.
and you
It's not a
take out
war.
your shotgun and go to war with them, it is a
No,
war. It's a
That's
battle.
personal
No,
It's a
defense.
battle.
Wow.
If
The
there
equivocation
is
is
hold on,
insane.
let me finish, please. If there is a wave of consecutive people doing that to your women and children, then we call that an invasion.
Okay, so it's also called a home invasion if just one person breaks into your house. You don't need it to be a wave. So this is some weird semantic games going on here. Like, oh, well, conflict is war and war is whatever I decide it to be, and God permits war because sometimes they happen to good people, and how dare you say that war is evil just as a thing because by saying that you're saying that anyone who participates in that conflict is by extension evil. No one's saying any of this stuff. Jill is drawing these conclusions in the hopes that no one will understand that he's, I think he throws up these smoke screens in the hopes of sounding smart, but it just makes him sound completely confused. I mean, I think you could have a more intelligent conversation with a recently beheaded chicken than you could with Jesus as Lord.
So yes, and the Bible does permit war in the case of self-defense.
The United
that
It's
is
States is
called
not
not a
just
god.
war. It's called
self-defense.
just.
Just war theory doesn't really apply when a God tells you. One of the things that's not like, okay, so if a group of religious fundamentalists decide to fly some planes into American buildings because they believe their God told them to, are we justified in counterattacking them? Were they justified because they believe their God told them to do that? Right? Like just war theory tends to actually make it like, okay, so if somebody's using religious reasons and religious fundamentalism as a justification for jumpstarting a war, for initiating a fight, right? And from their perspective, they would say, no, it's actually less than that. It's more like it's more of defense. If you stop and think about the oppression of us and the decadence spread by Western culture, and we're fighting against that, I mean, Christians could make the same justification, and some Christians do make that justification. So this is just weak sauce from Jill, and yeah. Uh, to Megalite Jack. I didn't expect you to cover this passage. No, I don't. I wouldn't normally. The only reason I dedicated this particular video to it, I was going to have my brother on for this because we were talking about this one a couple weeks ago and laughing at him. Um, but I'm only covering it because I'm testing this evmux thing, so I'm going to keep this kind of quick. Hey Pat, how's it going? I like this. I think when Daffy Duck spun his bill around and said this means war, that was the final definition for little Jill. Yeah, probably. I don't think Jill thinks that deep about anything. Yeah, I mean, he probably doesn't. I think, I mean, to be fair, I think he was just reaching for the whole thing. Like, oh, you think war is bad? What about those people that fought for us in World War II? I mean, you're right. I don't think he's really doing that. Like, he just like, how dare you say, how dare you call some of the wars I think are cool bad? And what's the best way to manipulate people into this? Are you saying my granddad was bad because he fought? Like, no one's saying that, you dingus. No one.
War theory, you can read about it. They've been writing
Yeah.
about it. Christians have been
So
writing about it since the first century.
Christians have been writing about just war theory. Okay. Well, the issue that Mark Reed was bringing up is how ancient Israelites justified like going after and putting people to the sword. And I don't know if Mark Reed knows about this because I don't know that he studies this stuff as close, but it's called the ban, the harem. I think that's how it's pronounced, similar to haram, right? So if it's dedicated to the ban, it's dedicated for total destruction. Think burnt offering, burnt sacrifice kind of thing, and it needs to be carried out to completion. Um, and not like happy ending completion either, more like, the end of apocalyptic film. So I really think this is cute that Jill is attempting to like kind of juggle all these things like, oh, it's not that bad, it's not what you think. It's He's right. It's much worse than Jill's letting on.
yeah, so the war in Iraq was not self-defense. Iraq had nothing to do with
I'm
the
not
attack on
justifying
the
the Iraq
United
War.
States. So
Only the
yeah,
wars in the
but
Bible.
hang on, Jill, behave. So and let's not forget that in Numbers 31, it was God that commanded them to go out and slaughter the Midianites.
Right.
So
And
this
why?
is
Why
not
was that the
just
case?
this is not just a
You
case
have to
of,
demonstrate
oh,
that.
they had to defend themselves. Look,
Yes.
Jill, you're going to get thrown
They
out
were
if you keep
defending
interrupting me,
themselves.
mate.
Yes, they were defending themselves.
I didn't know there were
Jill,
people who didn't think war
last
was
warning,
evil. That's
you're going to
wild.
get thrown out if you keep interrupting me.
I'm
Not
quiet. Go ahead.
only did they not have a defensive war, they went out to slaughter the Midianites. God ordered them to do this. So that is an evil act committed by an evil God in your estimation.
No, because I would argue that it was a just war. It was self-defense. If you want to have
And
that
what were they
debate,
defending
my channel
against?
is open.
Well, we're right here. How was it defense?
It's self-defense. The Bible tells us why God sends the people to war, to defend women and children, to defend what's right, to defend justice, to free the widows and the orphans from slavery. Israel was a hub for freed slaves, for escaped slaves. They would
Wait,
come to Israel for
So
freedom.
how is defending what's right in your estimation self-defense? How
But
do
you
you
have to
get
read the
there?
Bible, and it tells you why God wages wars with these nations to begin with. It wasn't, they weren't tiptoeing through the tulips.
The Lord said to Moses, "Speak to the Israelites and say to them, I am the Lord your God. You must not do as they do in Egypt, where you used to live, and you must not do as they do in the land of Canaan, where I am bringing you."
This is always a good one to bring up because when they this is the one that they forget about, because if you argue with these guys about, hey, slavery is bad and look at the way they do slavery and stuff like this, these guys, a lot of apologists will be like, well, look, there's this stuff in the culture, et cetera, this stuff that happens, and this stuff is shared, and this is all, and God tolerates lots of other bad stuff, so maybe he just tolerates this kind of stuff like slavery in here. But then there's passages like this specifically. It says, "Speak to the Israelites and tell them, I am the Lord your God. You must not do as they do in Egypt when you used to live, and you must not do as they do in the land of Canaan." This has been brought up before to some of these guys, right? But they, and Jill especially, he'll probably bring this up as like one of his dunce comments of the week or whatever if he goes live again. But that right there is my antidote to that. So if you're going to do this kind of like cultural, this kind of cultural subjective approach, cultural relativism kind of thing, well, yeah, but they came from cultures that also had slavery and there was slavery around them and yada, yada, yada. But their slavery wasn't as bad as theirs. Well, it doesn't matter. If they had slavery, maybe they weren't supposed to do that, right? And yet, They had some things that were very similar to them, despite the fact there's passages like this, like you don't do this, right? What you would get pushback on is like, yeah, 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 but what he's talking about is the sex stuff. The Egyptians were all about the butt stuff, and the Canaanites were all about like dogs or something, whatever, donkey shows or something like that. That's what they'll try to put on this. Well, the Egyptians were perverts, and therefore they're all put to the sword, and the Canaanites were all perverts, and therefore put them to the sword. It's a just like an extension of like QAnon kind of crap.
Do not follow their practices. You must obey my laws and be careful to follow my decrees. I am the Lord your God. Keep my decrees and laws, for the man who obeys them will live by them. I am the Lord. No one is to approach any close relative to have sexual relations. I am the Lord. Do not dishonor your father by having sexual relations with your mother. She is your mother. Do not have relations with her. Do not have sexual relations.
And none of this really matter. This for Jill is like, okay, these people were all doing things, we're all doing the opposite of these things, and therefore they deserve to be killed. I'm pretty sure that's what he's like. That if I'm reading between the lines, that's what he's going to say. Which is interesting because if World War II was fought for those reasons, I mean, would he be embarrassed trying to defend that?
With your father's wife. That would dishonor your father.
Uh, Jill is historically illiterate and is more than willing to display his ignorance publicly. Yeah, it makes him a useful idiot. Yahweh says no way to them donkey shows. Yep, can't do that.
Do not have sexual relations with your sister, either your father's daughter or your mother's daughter, whether she was born in the same home or elsewhere. Do not have sexual relations with your son's daughter or your daughter's daughter. That would dishonor you. Do not have sexual relations with the daughter of your father's wife, born to your father. She is your sister. Do not have sexual relations with your father's sister. She is your father's close relative. Do not have sexual relations with your mother's sister, because she is your mother's close relative. Do not dishonor your father's brother by approaching his wife to have sexual relations. She is your aunt. Do not have sexual relations with your daughter-in-law. She is your son's wife. Do not have...
Notice, don't dishonor your uncle by approaching your aunt to have sex with her. She's your aunt. You're not dishonoring her. You're dishonoring your uncle.
Have relations with her. Do not have sexual relations with your brother's wife. That would dishonor your brother.
That would dishonor your brother. Never mind the wife. It would dishonor your brother.
Do not have sexual relations with both a woman and her daughter.
What?
Do not have sexual relations with either her son's daughter or her daughter's daughter. They are her close relatives. That is wickedness. Do not take your wife's sister as a rival wife and have sexual relations with her while your wife is living.
Curious.
Do not approach a woman to have sexual relations during the uncleanness of her monthly period.
Kink shaming.
Do not have sexual relations with your neighbor's wife and defile yourself with her.
Wait, what?
Do not give any of your children to be sacrificed to Molech, for you must not profane the name of your God.
That one kind of comes out of nowhere. Don't sleep with your neighbor's wife. And for the, I can't emphasize this enough. Do not offer your kids to be sacrificed to Molech. That just seems like a little bit of
I am the Lord. Do not lie with a man as one lies with a woman. That is detestable. Do not have sexual relations with an animal and defile yourself with it. A woman must not present herself to an animal to have sexual relations with it. That is a perversion. Do not defile yourselves in any of these ways, because this is how the nations that I am going to drive out before you became defiled. Do not defile yourselves in any of these ways, because this is how the nations that I am going to drive out before you became defiled.
Begin with. They weren't tiptoeing through the tulips, Mark Reed. They were doing some horrible things, and God decides that he had enough of it. He waited 400 years. He gave these nations time to repent over and over again.
Yeah, this is a theological position that comes up quite a bit, and it actually doesn't have much. It's a pretty common one, right? So the idea is that, well, God could have stopped this initially, right? But he doesn't. He kind of allows this stuff to go, right? The way that this ends up getting portrayed amongst apologetic circles is that, well, God gave them ample time to reverse course on this. This doesn't entirely, it doesn't make sense why, if the Israelites are existing as kind of an invasion force, and at least like a trespasser, They're coming out of Egypt and they're wandering through these areas, and they believe that their God has promised this land to them. And so while they're there and kind of cohabitating with some of these other tribes, sometimes aggressively, sometimes kind of peacefully, they pick up different things. They have these issues. But this 400-year thing is supposed to be like, oh, well, I don't know, and it's not entirely clear in most of the books of the Old Testament that the good, it'd be kind of an interesting topic to bring up with some Old Testament scholars, if the good example of the Israelites was supposed to rub off somehow on these people. Uh, no pun intended. And somehow or another they were supposed to pick up the hint that if they don't get on board with the Israelite way, eventually the Israelites are going to come out and kill them. That seems kind of weird because I'm sure that there were fundamentalists on the other side of things, in like the Midianite camp that are like, well, we need to get rid of these Yahwehites because they're crazy. Uh, but old Jill here is completely of the opinion. He's convinced that the way this works is that these other cultures started out bad and just continued to get bad over the course of 400 years until they were all bad, and that justified killing every last one of them, even though that's not the point of harem, the point of the ban. The point of the ban is that these people are dedicated to the destruction, dedicated destruction for Yahweh, whether they're innocent or not. It has nothing to do with whether or not they deserve it in big quotes, or they had it coming, or this is capital. None of those really apply to this kind of concept. So what Jill's talking about here is just kind of I mean, it's a popular apologetic tactic, um, but it's not very convincing.
Warned them, stop doing what you're doing. Stop
But he knew
sacrificing
they weren't going
children.
to repent, right?
Stop stop
Right.
raping women and children. Stop with the sex fertility stuff. And they
Yeah, but okay, so if it's like, okay, so these people over there need to stop doing this, and if not, the Israelites are going to be ordered to kill them all. And yet, in the Israelite code of laws, there's rules against doing all of these things. And generally, you don't have laws for things that people aren't doing. You tend to write laws for things that people have done or people need to be aware that they should not be doing. So it's probably a safe bet that some Israelites got up, got into this kind of stuff and needed these laws to be in place in order to justify punishment of them. So this seems kind of weird. But by the basis of the establishment of the law itself, the Israelites are just as guilty of committing some of this kind of stuff. The only thing that I think Jill's going to appeal to is going to be a matter of degrees. Well, he'll have to try to say, well, the Midianites or the Amalekites or whatever, 100% of them are perverts. Well, okay, how do you prove that? And you can't have newborn baby perverts, right? You can just have newborn baby victims. And unless Jill thinks that it's justifiable to wipe out infants who are being victimized by all these evil perverts in this land, I mean, is that where their imagination has to go in justifying God drowning all those newborn babies in the flood? Or is Jill one of these people where he believes the wombs were stopped up too? A lot of fantasy nonsense.
would not stop. So then
What?
he sends the armies of the Lord, the Israelites, to remove them from the land as a punishment for their wicked behavior, which is just. So if we have a group today killing
Oh, yeah. I mean, he's never not making an ass of himself, but yeah.
babies systematically, I would say would be just for us to mount up and go over there and stop those atrocities.
What was the reason? What was the reason that God gave for killing the Midianites? What was the reason?
Their sexual fertility
No,
codes, which
no,
included children.
no,
Well, we can
no,
have
it
that
wasn't.
debate.
Their sexual fertility. Their fertility didn't have anything to do with it. It was just, it was supposed, they were dedicated to the ban. That's really all you need to know. Anything else would be attempting to justify God's reasons for doing something, and that just doesn't sound, that doesn't sound kosher.
We can have that
First,
debate
Well,
if you're
first,
not afraid.
first sentence of
If you're not
Numbers
afraid.
31. Hang on, first sentence of Numbers 31, and you will not talk over me while I read this out, Jill, because I know what you do. Numbers 31. The Lord said to Moses, "Take vengeance on the Midianites for the Israelites. After that, you'll be gathered to your people."
Read the entire story to flush out what's actually happening.
Flush out. Probably a poor choice of words. The demos. The text prior to Judges, Exodus, Numbers indicates the very thing. It's not the case the Israelites did not do those things or would not. God had to make examples of both cases. Yeah. And that seems to be because I don't know that in Joshua, I want to. I really do. I've been reading Dr. Bowen's new book, his volume two of the atheist thing. I've been trying to get back into that, and I started reading it, and I am kind of curious about because he gets into an explanation about this with the ban, and I think I'm trying to find out if that word harem is used in books like Numbers, because I think when he's talking about it in the book of Joshua, and maybe later books. I'm kind of interested in that. I'll have to ask him if he wants to do an interview sometime.
Okay, so you can't start and say, look, Numbers 31, verse 1, as if that's the first war or first battle that was ever
Dude,
waged.
it's that
All right, you have
it's
to
the
go all the
same
way.
verse.
I didn't cut you
Stop.
off when you were
No,
talking.
stop. No,
I didn't cut you off
stop.
when you were talking.
Let him finish.
You have to
Let him
go
finish.
all the way back to Leviticus. Go all the way.
Yeah, people, that one did. I don't know if the previous one. Thank you very much for the super chat. I don't know if the other ones did though. If you're not seeing them, switch over to the live chat because sometimes they post in different orders. In fact, mine. Let me go back to live chat. When I'm looking at that screen, I didn't have that up. I don't know if I saw any of your previous ones, people. I'm not sure. I'm surprised that super chat worked. Well, I mean, I guess it shouldn't be. That's all embedded in through YouTube. But yeah, this client, this evmux thing is a little bit goofy. But that one did go through. Michael Deaton writes, Peebo, I don't see any of your super chat. I don't see any but your super chat. But when I try to unhide you, the option isn't available. So you're not hidden as far as I can tell. Yeah. That's weird. And by the way, if anybody, did anybody see the link that I posted up there? I'm not trying to like force anybody to join because if nobody wants to, but I did put the join link in there, and I don't know if it works that way. I just posted it. I'm not sure if one can click on that and come in, but if anybody's interested, give it a click, and I can see if it works.
Back to Exodus, and where the text is telling you that these lands were committing atrocities, and to where God now is mounting up and forming his own nation to go fight against Amalek, to go fight against these nations that are committing these atrocities.
Yeah.
Context is
So,
king. Yeah, I've been behaving, but of course you don't like narratives that goes against yours.
say, Joe.
He was very clear that it was because you kept unmuting yourself is the reason why you were getting bounced,
Joe.
not because of your position.
Cancel culture is a dress rehearsal for mass murder. They're seeing.
So he's been cultured, cultured, canceled. Is that what happened to
If
Jill?
people can be disappeared from social media, and if people accept people being disappeared from social media, then they will accept people being disappeared from the world.
Is that Stefan Molyneux? Of course he's watching that guy. Jesus, Jill's a fascist. So yeah, there it is. Proud, fundy, lunatic, uh, incapable of understanding most anything. Um, that's some of his crap. But yeah, I wasn't able to try this again. Oh, actually, I think somebody did try to. AJ jumped in. Let's see if I can add you in here. Sorry, man. Add you in.
Ja, hello, guten Tag.
Guten Abend. Let me get rid of the screen. Remove from dynamic. There we go. All right, let's try to make this even. How you doing?
Well, hanging in there. How about yourself?
Pretty good. I think you might actually be. Let's see. I'm trying to turn this up here. Sorry, these gotten used to StreamYard, and these particular controls are not. They're not conducive to a 14-inch monitor. I can tell you that.
Ah, yeah. that that makes sense.
Yeah. So for anybody in the side chat, is AJ sounding okay? We'll see.
Testing, testing. 1, 2, 3.
Testing. Is AJ hearable? Is that a word?
Testes.
Audible.
1, 2, 3. Something AJ.
It does sound like it's a little quiet, but maybe that's just my sound on things. But
Let me see if I can tinker with my mic here. Is that any better?
Yeah, a little bit. I've got you
Okay.
turned up. I've got you turned up kind of in the studio end of things, which apparently is a thing. Also, this is weird. There's a push to talk thing on this. So
Oh.
apparently I can like while it's playing, I think I can do a push to talk thing, and say something to you muted and bypass the stream and
Oh,
kind of
fancy.
talk to you about. Yeah, it's very cool. There's a lot of like OBS kind of like streamlined OBS style plugins built into this thing, and it's a little like there's just enough extra where it's kind of clunky, and it makes it's not super intuitive. Uh, yeah. Anyway,
All right. Well, good enough.
yeah, yeah. I don't know if you can. I think you can add an avatar to it. I don't know what it looks like on your side of things, and I don't know anybody else who's ever used this evmux program. But I figured I'd try and do a test. I'd seen some reviews on it and was intrigued. So
Let me see here. I haven't tinkered with it to see if there's any intuitive way to add an avatar. I'm sure there is. I just haven't. Let's see. That's settings for that. Share video. Leave room. Ooh, dark mode. Well, there's that. So that's a win right there. But I don't see an avatar spot. But I might have to like create an account for that. Maybe. I don't know.
yeah, I've got yours cranked up as high as it can go as far as like affecting the broadcast. So, which is interesting. Yeah, that's interesting. I can like mute you and like turn your volume down kind of on the fly and spotlight you.
Let's see. And I don't see anywhere to tinker with my volume settings here. So I think that is all on your end. Let me get my mic a little closer.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. I don't know how to like. There doesn't seem to be like one master volume on it like there is for StreamYard. Like
Uh,
there's. Oh wait. Hang on. I think there is.
but wait.
Let's try that. I don't know if this. No, I don't think that did. There are a variety of tricks and things like that as well.
The unhappy Cyclops avatar.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah. Some of the places where they leave the where they put the controls. It's a little odd. Yeah, because there's a backstage sound thing that I can pump up, and there's another one that I can boost. But I think it says it's affecting only on things on my side, so I don't know if it's really actually cranking up anything for them. So it's hard to know if it's actually doing anything for anybody else.
Well, apparently I'm at least audible, so that's, I think, a win.
Yeah, because Gio was asking, he's like, "Hey, yeah, pump it up a bit." I wish I could. I thought I found it, and then when I clicked on it, it's saying that it only affects things for me, which seems kind of dumb. Lucky Wolfen is saying, "God damn it, chat is broken." Chat might be broken. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm kind of yeah. I'll have to play. I don't know how much more I'm going to play around with it because most of the stuff that I would play around with would be to try to figure out how to like customize it. But in order to be able to do the kinds of customizations that I think are missing, I'd have to pay for it.
Oh.
And the one person, are you joining me on a computer or with your phone?
I'm on a computer.
You're on a computer. Okay.
Yeah.
You sound fine to me. My brother tried jumping in, and he has a Samsung, so it's an Android phone, and his like locked up on him and crashed within like a minute. Like it
Oh.
just yeah, it just dropped out. So Geo saying, yeah, we can hear you both. Okay. Yeah. And I think for whatever reason, this thing does some interesting. Like I think if you pay for like its premium service, it will broadcast or record everything that you do in like FLAC audio or something like that. Like it's
Oh.
pretty high res audio.
Lossless.
What's weird is that the free version of this broadcasts in 1080p. You got to pay $50 a month for StreamYard to be able to do that. Otherwise,
Oh.
everything's 720p. But you can't like chop stuff up. You can't. You always have the little spinny powered by evmux thing. You know, brought to you by
I,
this
I do
software.
like it. It reminds me of Bonsai Buddy from back in the day. Just kind of jumps around the screen every now and then. Hello, I'm still here.
Good job, you're rich. Am I? Did I miss a super chat?
Well, so here's the question: how much does the paid version cost, so we can do a fundraiser for you and get you the cash you need to get the paid version?
Well, the thing is, the more I play around with this, the more I realize that I need to be doing this kind of stuff with a separate monitor, which is something I'm planning on getting. I'm going to clear out some of my work stuff that I don't really use, get it back to the office, get my own monitor, hook some stuff up to it, and then probably start using either Prism or something like that. But the more I play around with this kind of stuff, the more I realize like I like this MacBook, and streaming from it casually like this is a nice thing. You know, it's fun, but to like kind of pump up like production values and stuff, kind of improve it, I'd probably should get like a desktop, which I don't
We,
really want. I don't entirely want to get into, but it would probably be easier. And
oh yeah,
then I could run something like OBS, although OBS or Prism Live. And I think I would get all. I mean, I would get even more functionality than I'm getting with something like this, and it's free. You know, it's just gonna. It would just take a lot. The learning curve is a lot higher. You know, it's gonna take me a few hours to figure the thing out.
it's bad timing. I got rid of some monitors not too long ago that were kicking around here that were spare that I found other homes for. But if I'd known, I would have saved one for you and shipped it to you.
Oh no, that's fine. Um, that's probably not too big of a deal because I'm trying to figure out what I'm gonna do. If I'm just gonna try to invest in a desktop and a monitor or two, or try to do one monitor and kind of like because this MacBook it's not a Pro, so I can run one display out of it, not two. But you can run one display out of it, I think, and still run the native display. So that would be doable. I don't know how that would tax like production and stuff on it. Pro, processor wise, this thing's it's pretty beefy. I've actually
Yeah.
been kind of surprised by it. But yeah, no, I mean anything that you've got shrunk down to the size of a large Kindle, you compare that to something that's in something the size of two shoe boxes. I mean, it's got more room to breathe and it's more muscle.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah. I just need to I need to figure out how to do that. My biggest thing has been space. I don't really have a lot of space in this apartment. I didn't in my last place either, so I just haven't really invested in it. So
All right, so we need to do a GoFundMe to do an add-on to the apartment, and then we'll get you a desk, a desktop, a monitor, and the paid version of the software, and we'll have you all set.
yeah, the thing is, I don't need. There's a reason I don't do Patreon. Like I don't really need the money. What I need is a better apartment. But the problem is, in my particular area, it's very hard to get an apartment, even if you can afford it. And for the most part, well, I mean, I would probably have to move into a place with a roommate. I could probably swing it on my own, but it would be pushing it. But I would like, a two bedroom, a dedicated office.
I I would advise against the roommate.
Yeah, so would I. I've done that before. Um, at this point, the only roommate I think I would be okay with living with would be like my younger brother. If we wanted to do that, maybe. But at the same time, I'd have my bedroom, he'd have his bedroom. I really don't want to do that. I want my own spot where I've got a room. You know.
I I feel like last time I was actually live with you, I had to keep muting my mic because my roommate was in the well, not current roommate, but he was in the bathroom barfing and loud enough that I had to keep muting. What is that noise?
So,
It's my roommate blowing chow next door.
yeah, yeah,
That was one of his finer moments.
yeah. Well, I think I will wrap this up. But if you want to keep talking, well, yeah, I kind of want to see if it does that. You want to hang around until I take this thing off live, see if it still works.
Sure.
Okay. All right, folks. Well, that's it. I just wanted to run this as a test to see how things work and to slag Jill a little bit. Hopefully he finds it and then he includes me in whatever one of his like profiles in cowardice or whatever it is. Like I'm sure he's gonna call me cancel culture spatchcock or something. So the cancel culture cock.
You're so
Uh,
woke.
yeah, yeah, that's me. Super woke. So thanks, folks, for showing up again for this one and putting up with it. And thank you for the super chats. Peebo, I'm sorry that your other comments didn't come through. I'm gonna go ahead and blame YouTube slash evmux this thing and see. I mean, I don't know why it's doing that. Um, Maya says, "Okay, I did not expect this." Yeah, well, it's Spatchcock playing with technology, so you know that's not gonna turn out great. There's a very good chance that I'm gonna break something in my apartment. Uh, but good to see you again, Maya. So yeah, I'll take this offline and see what this thing's like, and then we'll publish from there. See you later, folks. Take it easy.